Well, here we are back at Keto Naturopath Kitchen, and today I'm making a keto coffee cake with streusel topping. I'm making dairy-free, flour-free, no nuts, so this is going to be really amazing. First off, what I did is the center layer is a sugar and cinnamon mixture. And I just have 50 grams of xylitol, a tablespoon of egg white powder, and 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, which will go in the middle of the cake. And now I'm going to make the cake. Again, I use xylitol because that's the only granular sweetener I can use. So you can use any granular sweetener you like in this recipe. Again, I'm just using xylitol because that's what I can use. So I'm making the cake, and so in a medium mixing bowl, I'm going to whip the egg whites to a stiff peak. These are stiff peaks that you have stiff peaks that form. If I were to hold that upside down, the egg whites would not come out. So now, and that was 6 egg whites, by the way. This is 6 egg yolks. And I'm going to beat these until they become light in color. So these have lightened in color, and now I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. And then also 62 grams of xylitol, 30 grams of egg white powder, and a teaspoon of gelatin, which I have all in here. Just going to add that. And we're going to mix this until it becomes light and cream colored. I'll start on slow because everything's going to... As you can see, this is a light pale color now. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold in the egg whites to the egg yolk mixture. One of my favorite TV shows to watch is the British baking show on Netflix. One of the contestants was folding her egg whites into her mixture, and she was doing it with a spoon, which I love to do. And I get Paul, I forget Paul's last name, but he just looked at her and said, "You have to do that with a spatula." So I'm like, uh-oh. I love doing my spoon. I love my spoon. I'm trying to use a spatula more. So I was corrected by the British baking show host, Paul. I don't remember Paul's name. So we're going to do this until it's fully incorporated. Since there's no flour or baking soda, baking powder in this, the egg whites will be what makes it rise. And yes, it will fall after baking, but that's what you get when you don't want to use flour. Okay, so now I have this 8-inch cake pan from, I think it's Fat Daddy. I will link to it. I love these pans. I make all my cheesecakes in this. And then I have an 8-inch round of parchment paper that I put on the bottom so it doesn't stick. I will spray the sides so it doesn't stick. That was olive oil spray. You can use avocado oil, coconut oil, whatever you have. So I'm going to put half of the cake mixture in the pan. That might be more than half, but we'll see. Spread it around. So I adapted this from a regular coffee cake recipe I found. It uses a lot of sugar. I have decreased the amount of sweetener because I don't really like things that sweet. So this is the cinnamon filling, which is 50 grams of xylitol, a tablespoon of egg white powder, and 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. And you just sprinkle it on. And then I'll see how sweet this is. If it's way too sweet, I will, in my recipe, reduce the amounts. But as I said, I already reduced the amounts from what the recipe called for to begin with. So then I put the remaining cake batter. Try to flatten that some. So on top of this, we put the Streusel topping, which is, again, I'm making this dairy-free, so I have 113 grams of bacon grease in here. If you're not dairy-free, you can use butter. If you don't want bacon grease, you can use coconut oil or butter-flavored coconut oil. But I'm using bacon grease because I have found that bacon grease in place of butter is amazing in baked goods. So to that, you add 70 grams of xylitol, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. This is a lot of cinnamon in this, so again, I'll see if it's too much cinnamon. We can always reduce it. And then 120 grams of pork rind flour. So earlier today, I ground up my pork rind flour. I'm using my hands because you have to make the Streusel topping with your hands. You just mix this in with the fat until it forms crumbles. Some of the fat's a little harder than others. And then you sprinkle that on top. This seems like a lot of topping. So we'll see how it comes out. And again, I will be adjusting the recipe if this is way too much or way too sweet. So you put this in a 350-degree oven for 20 minutes. Make sure that's right. 20 minutes, and then take it out, let it cool. So we'll be back. I'm going to let it cool for at least 10-15 minutes. So we'll be back in about 45 minutes. So I had the coffee cake in the oven for 25 minutes instead of 20. It doesn't look pretty, and I'll do some explain, but it did rise above the top of the pan. Initially, I was going to put this in my silicone, 8-inch silicone pan, and I wasn't sure if it was high enough, and it wasn't. So I'm glad I used the Fat Daddy's pan. If you can see, it's not pretty. It's sunken in. And I think what happened was I did not mix in the egg white mixture enough. So, lesson to me, use my spoon, because I have a better feel with the spoon than with the spatula, because I've never had this happen before. But we're going to try it. It still could taste yummy. And I have my coffee here waiting. I waited for it to cool down completely, so it's been out of the oven about an hour. I had parchment paper under it, and I forgot, and I'm like, why can't I lift it up? It's because of the parchment paper. So here it is, and doesn't look pretty, but it still tastes amazing. Let me get some of the Streusel topping. Dairy-free, nut-free, extremely low carb, and it tastes amazing. No, I shouldn't be speaking with my mouth full, but this is good. This is amazing, and I'm going to finish the whole piece. Enjoy.